Good morning, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today at the National Book Festival, one of my favorite weekends in Washington, D.C., because it's a chance to celebrate the magic of reading and to highlight the extraordinary contributions that American authors have made to our country and to the world. As an avid reader and the mother of 3 bookworms, I'm particularly excited to be here on the children's stage. This summer, as you just heard, I invited children across the country, and I hope some of you, to join in the Summer Reading Challenge, to explore new ideas and exercise their imaginations through books. Kids from all 50 states participated, reading nearly 200,000 books this summer as part of the program. Many of those books were by the extraordinary author I've been asked to introduce today, our National Ambassador for Young People's Literature, Mac Barnett. Mac joins a long line of ambassadors who have championed literacy and inspired young Americans to read. His books have sold more than 5 million copies worldwide. They're imaginative, funny, full of heart, and they've earned some of the greatest awards in children's literature. Mac's newest graphic novel, First Cat in Space and the Wrath of the Paperclip, comes with the highest endorsement of my 5-year-old son, who stole my copies of his books as soon as they came into our house, stayed up late, read them in bed, and told me they were the greatest thing ever. So, without further ado, Mac is here today to discuss this book with his predecessor as National Ambassador, Jason Reynolds. You'd please join me in welcoming Mac and Jason. Thank you.
There used to be a time when they would do this part for you.
When you were ambassador.
I know, right?
Hold on, I have to. You know this, but you don't all know this. This is gonna seem weird, but I have to put this on. No, that's very tepid applause. But literally, I am contractually obligated to put this on. So don't think like, wow, this guy loves his medal. And I know that if I didn't tell everybody, you, even though you know that, would probably say, wow, this guy loves his medal. So.
Can you tell people? Check. There it is. Thank you. Can you tell people how much it weighs? People don't know this about the medal.
It's very heavy. It's very heavy.
It's made from 1 block of gold.
That's right.
Listen, this is, I just want to give you all a fair warning. This is definitely how the next 30 minutes is about to go. We figured we'd get the day started off on a positive note. We happen to know each other and like each other. And so if you came for serious talk, but on a serious note, I do want to ask a couple of questions that I think are important. And we will take questions in about 20 minutes, just so you all know. You're the National Ambassador.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, you are.
I got the first question.
Those are 2 very, very, very serious words.
Yeah.
And so my first question, we should start at the tough part, is what does it mean to you, right? What does it mean to you to be the National Ambassador, specifically for young people's literature, the laureate of children's literature,
right,
for this entire country?
So yeah, that's right. So like that's what I always say when people are like, what is this job even? Is I say it's sort of like the poet laureate for children's books, right? But the title is National Ambassador for Children's Literature, which it's kind of up to interpretation. And I think like all of us who've had this role have interpreted it in different ways. So for me, beyond just championing kids' books, and the kids who read those books, I think that like rather than being a champion of literacy to kids, going and like urging kids to read, and look, kids, you should read.
Job well done, Mac.
I really want to be an ambassador from kids' books to like the wider literary world to advocate on behalf just of the value of these books and the brilliance of the kids who read them, because I think adults need to hear that. I think that adults underestimate kids' books. And a big part of that is that adults underestimate kids. And so that, I think, is my job. I want to go out and talk to people in the world about what I've learned these past, 21 years of writing books for kids, and especially what I've learned about children.
And your platform is specific, though.
It is.
So, and I know you're focusing primarily on picture books, but can you tell, like, why picture books? I think you're the first of us who's focusing specifically on the picture book. I think, you know, there's been like, what was Meg's was more about Latinx kids and sort of.
And it was about like discussing stories together. So it's about like both telling stories and talking about them afterwards.
Story Me,
So
right.
Yeah.
Mine was about small town America, Main Street, you know, middle of America, small town.
But will you talk a little bit more about what you did, Jason? Because
That's definitely not what
No,
we're
hold
here
on,
for.
but we are though. Because similarly, like I feel like you and I have sort of a kinship in here because you sort of sidestepped the ambassador thing too, of saying like you are going to be not just an ambassador for reading, but for kids writing, for sharing their own voice. Like you also kind of twisted it.
I will look very quickly because you're shirking a bit here. But very quickly, I think for me, when I was the ambassador, whatever years ago that was, in 2020, basically, I wanted to, listen, we can have a moment of candor here. We were all at odds, right? The country was sort of going through what it's going through. It could be argued that we're still kind of going through those things, right? This isn't any surprise. I know everybody's like, oh God, don't talk about it, I know. Listen, we're going through what we're going through, right? 2020, we were going through what we were going through then as well. In terms of us there's unrest in the way that we're connecting with one another. And because of that unrest, there becomes lots of just like mudslinging and stereotyping and all of the things that come along with that particular kind of family unrest. And my job was my particular platform was like, you know what? I want to go to the places that we're all claiming to be afraid to go to for whatever reasons, and to put the power back in the hands of the people who live in those communities to say, you know, you get to tell us who you are. Instead of me continuing to sit in my house around the corner and say, I know exactly who you are, right? And so because I know who you are, I get to judge you instead of saying, why don't you let me know? Tell me who you are, young person. Because I don't really care about what you're going through and what your parents might think. Or what do you want to say? How can you have your voice heard? And I think a lot of young people want that kind of power. They desire it. They're trying to figure out how to access it. And that's all I wanted to do. Now, back to you. For yours, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a similar thing, but you're using what I would argue is the building blocks for this, right? This is where we start.
That's right.
So talk a bit about it.
All right, so my platform, you have to have a slogan too. They make you come up with a slogan for your platform. So mine is, behold the picture book. Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Genius.
Thank you so much.
Behold, exclamation point.
Yes.
and then just like the picture book.
It's like, yes. There's been some debate. You'll see it some places where it's behold, comma, the picture book, exclamation point.
Okay.
Or what I prefer, behold, exclamation point, just the picture book, as you said. And let me tell you, the Library of Congress's copy editing department does not like that there is this variation.
You should just tell them to do behold, all caps, comma, the picture book, then both happen.
All right, there's going to be a third. We just saw a third variation born right now. But the focus is picture books, which I think are a great literary form. I think that the picture book deserves to stand alongside the novel, the short story, poetry, drama, as one of our great literary forms. It's a very young one, too. It's less than 100 years old. It's experimental, it's innovative, it borrows from all these other traditions, right? So of course you have text and image, and you have visual arts and like belletristic prose or even poetry sometimes in picture books. But also from the theater, because picture books are read out loud to kids. And when I write a picture book, like it's adults who are bringing that book to kids. It is your voice, your face. You are an actor who has been cast in every part in that book. There's dance. The human body is part of how a picture book is conveyed, right? It is the face, the arm, and the book, this gesture of turning the page. There's music above anything else. If you read picture book writers and illustrators, they will talk about how this is music, because first and foremost, the picture book is about rhythm. And then it's telling stories to each other out loud. That's like the first literature humans ever invented, right? It brings all these things together in an object that a kid can hold and chew on. But it's also this ephemeral thing that is made and remade every time somebody reads this out loud to a group of kids. I don't know, do we have any school librarians here? Let's hear it for school librarians. Like, you've seen this work, right? It's sort of like if you read the same picture book in the morning, it could be the same grade level. A picture book before lunch is a totally different thing from that same picture book after lunch. It's not the same thing. It is a different performance, and the way you read it is going to change, because those kids after lunch need a different kind of reading than the kids before lunch do. So I think it's amazing, and I think we don't understand this form. A lot of us have a relationship with this form from either sharing it with kids, or we remember picture books that were read to us when we were kids that we still kind of think about. But because there's not critical attention or really respect for the picture book, I think we feel kind of weird about how much we care and love this form. So first of all, we don't understand how it works, and I want to talk about that. But also, we don't understand kids. And that's what I'm excited about, too, is we are talking about our youngest readers, right? Who I think all kids are not listened to, aren't seen, sort of talked at. I think we live in a culture that thinks kids are precious, but affords them no real respect. And hopefully by talking about how sophisticated and philosophical and deeply feeling and complicated our youngest readers are, that all young people are sort of lifted up by that too.
I think it's such an interesting. Yeah, absolutely. We should probably clap for that. By the way. I was told years ago, I was thinking about picture books, and it's interesting because I also think that they give young people, like, this is how you develop your taste, right? And we never think about it this way, but this is going to be a lot of young people's first foray into visual art. This is going to be young people's first foray into collaboration and the collaborative arts. This is a thing that they will memorize a lot of the times, right? And more importantly, it starts to inform. We always talk about like the empathy thing, right? Like these books are like empathy machines, but I think even more so, maybe not more so, but just as important, I think they also have a huge hand in developing young people's senses of humor.
Yeah.
Which is a very important thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to ask you, Mac, a person who has such a keen sense of humor. And by the way, it's really hard to do what you do, to be an old man like you, and to write with such childlike humor.
Yeah, thank you.
So can you talk a bit about before we go to the questions, can you talk a bit about not just your incredible gift of doing it, but why it's so important that we find moments of laughter? Why play?
Yeah. Well, a play, and play is so important, I think, not just to the picture book, but I really see like all art, especially all fiction, as a form of play, right? We're playing make-believe, we're playing pretend. Like, when I read a novel, the author is going to try through like various techniques to convince me to pretend along with them. Say like, let's pretend these characters are real. Let's have real feelings about fake people doing things. And so there is something playful about art always. The picture book especially so, and because adults, authority figures, are co-opted into this performance, we're making you read aloud and sometimes read aloud and try silly voices and not know how to pronounce words. You embarrass yourselves a little bit when you read picture books, and that's good. That's good, because that's something that laughter and play does too. It undoes hierarchies and can subvert authority a little bit. It can show your teacher, your grandma, your mean babysitter to be a human. The picture book is built on surprise, right? The page turn is sort of the mechanism of it. You turn the page, and it's like the curtain rising on a theater 13 times. And surprise, I think, a lot of the time is funny. But I also think that kids, they have a great sense of humor that we don't understand. And I figured this out when I worked with kids. I worked with 4-year-olds as a camp counselor, and that's when I figured out I wanted to do this stuff. And there was a book, they had the most depressing camp library there. It was just 7 of the worst books, the worst picture books. I'm not going to name names.
Come on, just give us one.
But we all know
Just give us one, right?
But we all. I'll tell you
Everybody
one.
likes
Can I tell you?
best,
Can I tell
right?
you something? Can I tell you something? I'll tell you one that I do not like, and this is going to shock people in this room.
Yes.
Make way for ducklings.
Yeah. I think I agree with this, actually.
Thank you so much, and thank you for applause. I love it. There was applause, and also just oh.
It is a classic, though.
It is a classic. I mean, there's a lot I don't like about that book. One thing, how many, those ducks are just flying over all of these Boston landmarks that nobody knows or cares about. Or look at this bend of the Charles River. And you're like, I don't know, I'm from California. It's the most Bostonian thing in the world to think we all know and care about every bend of the Charles River. And I don't know if we have any Bostonians here, but that's what you're like. It is what you're like.
Okay, Mac, we have to take questions.
All right.
Before it goes off the rails, we have to reel you in. I can see it coming. Okay, we're going to take questions. By the way, I purposely didn't ask about First Cat in Space because I'm sure somebody in the audience is going to be like, I have questions about First Cat in Space. And so this is your chance. We have a few minutes left. Ask anything you want. Put your hand in the air. Don't be shy. I know it's early. Don't be shy. Older kids, as in adults, you also are allowed, right? Yeah. I don't know.
You can come up to this if you want.
Okay. Can I give the National Book Festival a bit of a critique? If we're going to leave 10 minutes, this eats the time. I just want to make sure you all know. Hit it.
Hi. I wanted to pick up on something that Mac was talking about with regard to the power of books, and particularly a series of books that you wrote that I'm particularly fond of. I'm fond of all of your work, but particularly the Mac B. Kid Spy books. And I wanted to ask you about the role of humor as a teaching tool. Mm-hmm. And I think that those books are particularly so good at using humor to teach. It's fiction, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's true. You can look it up.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to, if you would just elaborate a bit on that, because you do that so well, using humor as a tool to teach. And I admire your ability to do that as a writer, and I wanted to ask you to elaborate a bit on that.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. Some of this is because I don't know any other way to be, honestly, and that's been since I was a kid. I think that when I started making jokes and people laughed, then I was like, okay, they're listening, they care, I have their attention, and that was really thrilling to me. And I just I loved watching comedy, I loved reading comedy. Those books, Mac B. Kid Spy, those are my memoir, and the stories of my childhood when I was a spy who worked for the British government and grew up in Castro Valley, California. But there's a lot of history, there's a lot of geography, but it's told with jokes. I don't know, I think this stuff, I like to be funny, and I like learning stuff, and so you combine those things. I think sometimes, it's actually kind of hard to make learning boring, but I find that we adults are more than willing to do that hard work. And so I just like to tell jokes and learn about stuff, and I think that comes out in those books, and I hope that this should be fun and thrilling to read, because that is what it is to be a human in the world. There's a lot to laugh at and there's a lot to learn, and that's how I feel.
Yes.
We have some questions over here. How many books are there going to be in the First Cat in Space series?
All right, that's a good question. So there are 4 books out right now. The 5th book is coming out in November. That is called The First Cat in Space and the Baby Pirate's Revenge. And I can't believe I get to wear this medal and say that. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. They're going to be, I don't even know if I've ever said this before, they're going to be at least 7 books. So there are going to be 2 more after that. Yeah.
You're so excited.
Yeah, that was a great face.
Can we get like a First Cat in Space meets Jason Reynolds on Mars?
Yes, let's do it.
Everybody has on black. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Yes, young man. Up.
What is your first like your first book you ever authorized?
Good question.
First of all, authorized.
I like that. We're going to say we're both going to take that.
Forever.
We're both going to take that. So the first book that I published, which was the first picture book that I wrote, is called Billy Twitters and His Blue Whale Problem. But I started writing books when I was a kid. I would just get pieces of paper, fold them together, draw pictures myself, write the words, and I think that's when you become an author, really. The first time you make up a story, not because it's your homework, not because somebody told you to, not because somebody paid you to, but because it's something that you feel like doing. That's still why I do it. Even though, a lot of days I actually don't feel like sitting down and working. On some deep level, I feel like telling stories. Yeah. That's what I do, and so that's been going on since I was a kid. Thank you.
Since you write picture books, what's your favorite picture book?
That I've ever read, or that I have written?
Either.
Either. I'm going to give you that I've ever read, because it would feel weird if I forced in my favorite book of my own. It's really hard to pick a favorite, but I'll tell you there's a book, where I was going before I got derailed into Boston slander. The one great book in this library was a book I had missed as a kid. My mom, I grew up with just my mom, and she bought all her books at yard sales. So I grew up mostly with sort of the previous generation and the generation before that's picture books. I didn't read a lot of picture books that were written and published when I was a kid. So I had missed this book, even though it was out when I was a kid. It's called The Stinky Cheese Man and Other Fairly Stupid Tales.
Classic.
So good.
Go.
I couldn't believe this book. And I thought I get this book because I go to college. But my 4-year-olds, my campers, they're not going to understand all the jokes, but maybe they'll like that it's fairy tale stuff. And these kids were laughing at all the jokes that I was. It's not one of those things, sometimes you'll hear adults say, well, I like going to that movie with you because they put in some jokes just for the adults. And I remember when I was a kid, I was like, I got that joke. Oh, you don't know I got all your jokes. There's power to that. But that book, it's so generous because even if you don't know what a table of contents or a narrator is, the book explains it to you as it makes the joke. And so sometimes I think kids don't necessarily have the references because they haven't been here for a long time. But if we give them those references, the complexity, the sophistication of the joke, you'll be surprised at what they understand. And that's another thing about humor, especially in picture books, is when you see a kid laugh at a joke, you learn something about that kid and you're connected in that way. So yeah, Stinky Cheese Man is what made me want to write picture books.
Shout out to the Stinky Cheese Man. Yeah.
What inspired you to become an author?
Jason, what inspired you to become an author?
We have 2 minutes, Mac. Answer the question, buddy.
All right. I say 3 things. I love reading books, I love telling stories, and I love sleeping in really late in the morning. And authors get to do that every single day, except some days when they wake up early, especially on West Coast time, to do the first program. I mean, 10:30 seems like a good time to do this, I think, but...
Trust me, I'm with you. That is the actual answer. Yeah. All right, you got time for it. We're going to try to sneak in one more. Ready?
What's your favorite kind of dog?
Oh, that's a good question.
Get to the real question.
Yeah, I like hound dogs a lot. Yeah, just generally. I like hounds as a general. Can we do rapid fire hound dog?
What's your question? Quick.
What is the next book you want to write?
Ooh, it's going to have to be one of those First Cat books because I am contractually obligated. So want doesn't even come into my life right now.
Beats Jason Reynolds on Mars.
Yes.
What's your favorite, which book is like the one that you're proudest of writing?
Oh, wow. What a great question. I think it's a book called The Wolf, the Duck, and the Mouse that John Clausen illustrated.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
For me, I really like The Terrible Two.
Oh, that's a good choice.
I like that she's like,
Thank
that
you
one's
for
okay.
getting that in.
Here's-
That's good.
This is the answer.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
Last question.
In the first Cat in Space, The Soup of Doom,
Yeah.
falling pianos?
Yeah. Yeah, have you read it yet? Because I don't want to spoil it. Have you
Yes,
seen?
I've read.
So are you like, where's the falling piano? Or you
No,
just think
I
that's
love
funny?
it.
You love it? That's great. Yeah, there are. I'll just tell everybody, thank you so much. There are falling pianos in that book. There's a guy named Carlotti who, he's a character who makes terrible businesses. And one of his businesses is he has a piano factory on the top floor of a skyscraper, which then leads pianos to fall out onto the sidewalk in a very like old cartoon style way. Yeah.
We have to wrap it up.
And what better way to finish?
Well, I want to say, to Mac, thank you for all of your work, and we're grateful to have you during this time. And also, for all us East Coasters in the room, he's trash in Boston, but he does look a lot like a Bostonian,
Oh, I can't believe it.
which all of
I
us
can't
know. All of
believe
us. Everybody, have a good day. Have a good day.